We have thought that creativity is all about freedom, unlimited possibilities, a blank canvas, the world is your oyster. But here's what nobody tells you. The greatest artists in the history didn't create their masterpiece because they had everything. They created them because they had almost nothing. And what if I told you that some of the most iconic works ever made came from severe limitations, that the artists didn't overcome their constraints, but they were liberated by them. This is the story of how less becomes more, how boundaries becomes breakthroughs, and why the most creative minds in the world are obsessed with working inside the boxes and not breaking out of them.
Je ne me sers pas des outils traditionnels. C'est les nécessités de ce que je fais qui me conduisent à utiliser un outil. Une fois d'ailleurs, j'étais très désespéré, j'arrivais pas à produire ce que je voulais, et presque par dépit, j'ai pris un morceau de bois qui traînait dans l'atelier. Et finalement, ce qu'il a produit était beaucoup plus intéressant que ce que j'aurais voulu peut-être. Le véritable outil, il n'est pas là. Il est pendant le travail, c'est la lumière qui est l'outil. Parce que c'est toujours ce qui se passe sur la toile qui me dirige.
Meet Pierre Soulages, a French painter in 1979, made a radical decision. He looked at his palettes, all those colors, all those possibilities. He threw them away. He chose one color, black, not as a limitation but as a liberation. He called it Outrenoir, beyond black. And for decades, he explored the infinite possibilities within a single hue. The texture of black, the depth of black, a light hidden inside the black.
Quand quelque chose ne se passe qui m'intéresse, j'essaie de continuer, d'aller plus avant. Et c'est comme ça que j'ai fait les premières peintures que j'ai appelées Outrenoir. Je travaillais depuis des heures, je croyais que ce que je faisais n'était pas revenu. J'étais triste, agacé de voir que c'était mauvais, mais je continuais. Et à ce moment-là, je me suis aperçu que je ne travaillais plus avec du noir, que c'était avec la matière du noir, les états de surface du noir, qui créaient une lumière. Et cette lumière-là, c'est une lumière secrète, une lumière qui n'est pas évidente, qui venait du noir, me touchait. Et c'est ce qui me poussait à aller continuer.
By removing choice, he found focus. By narrowing his vision, he expanded his art. And here's the thing. If Soulages had unlimited colors, we might never have gotten those paintings. The constraint didn't hold him back, it pushes him forward. Henry Matisse spent his entire career as a painter. Brushes, canvas, oils, it was his language. Then, 86 years old, arthritis crippled his hands. He could barely hold a brush. Most artists would have stopped, but Matisse didn't see it as a limitation. He saw it as an opportunity. He picked up scissors, he began to cut colored paper, simple, direct, no intermediary. In his final years, confined to a wheelchair, he was unable to paint. Matisse created some of his most celebrated work. The constraint didn't diminish his genius, it refined it.
Previously, when I did just kids' books, I would be invited every morning to go to have cocoa among the kindergartens. Now I get invited to have martinis at old folks' homes.
Due to our Easter, Dr. Seuss received a challenge from a publisher. Write a children's book using only 50 unique words. 50 words, that's it. Most writers would say it's impossible. How would someone tell a story with such a severe limitation? But he still didn't see it as impossible. He saw it as a puzzle. The result? Green Eggs and Ham, a book that sold over 8 billion copies and has been translated into dozens of languages. The constraint forced him to be creative with languages in ways he had never explored before. Every word had to count, every sentence had to work harder, and that discipline created something timeless. Twitter launched in 2006. It had a 140 character limit, not because it was a feature, but because of a technical limitation. But instead of removing that constraint, the founders kept it. And that limitation changed how we communicate now. The users invented hashtags, they created mentions, they developed retweets, only because they had to say more with less. The constraint didn't limit the communication, but innovated it. There's a concept in creativity called constraint-induced innovation. The research is here. When people have unlimited resources, they often become paralyzed by choice. But when you have limits, limited time, limited materials, limited space, something shifts. Your brain stops overthinking and starts problem solving. You become more resourceful. You become innovative. You become more creative.
I've never allowed myself to think that any failure is anything other than part of the journey to where I'm destined to be. You've got to remember that filmmaking is an art form.
But here's the uncomfortable truth about creativity that nobody wants to talk about. Failure is not the opposite of success, it's the path of it. Every great artist have a graveyard of failure. Scripts they tore up, paintings they burned, ideas they abandoned. But the best one?
I think the main thing learning is to take nothing for granted. You have to continue to just work, and that is one thing that's in your control, to work, do the work. And I think that's about it. Like, you have to say, okay, this film was watched by so many people, and you try to do the best in the next one. Yeah.
They didn't see those failures as a setback, but they saw them as a data. George Lucas said, if you're creating things, you're doing things that have a high potential for being a failure. Especially you haven't done those things before. And you learn from those things. So, failure is another word for experience. Picasso created thousands of paintings. Some of them were experiments, some of them didn't work. And failure taught him how to paint the ones that did. So creative process isn't a straight line, it's a spiral. You go up, you go down, you loop back around, and every loop teaches you something. Now here's where it gets interesting, because constraints are not just about limitation, they're also about knowing which rules to break.
Move your eye around the entire square of the picture and always keep you moving and looking at new things and having your eye see different parts of the composition. I think one of the reasons that Sargent was interested in decoration, aside from the fact that a lot of artists of his generation were doing big decorative cycles at this point, was because he too was doing a big decorative cycle.
John Singer Sargent was a master painter. He knew every rule of composition, and then he broke them deliberately. He would place a bright red spot on a canvas somewhere it should not be, but it worked, because he understood the rules well enough to exactly know how to violate them.
This is a really good example of a plein air piece. Plein air means you're doing it on location. I'll bet he doesn't have any more than an hour and a half in this painting. And basically he's doing is roughing this in, and you can tell by the quality of the paint below is very thin and washed. He's added a little more detail into this. He's actually painted more paint into a sky area. But this is a really good example.
Maynard Dixon painted massive landscapes with almost no sky. Most artists would balance the composition, but Dixon did not. He made the rock formation dominate the entire canvas, and that created the sense of urban power, which a balanced painting never could have. They didn't break the rule randomly. They broke them strategically. They exactly knew what they were doing. And that's the difference between innovation
Get too
and
literal. I want to feel that as much as we see it. Trust your eye, trust your intuition. Every now and then, something you weren't expecting happens in the process. You gotta just trust your gut and do what you feel is right, and that's where the really great works come from.
David Carson revolutionized graphic design by ignoring the grid.
People who actually tell stories, meaning people who write novels and make feature films, don't see themselves as storytellers. It's all the people who are not storytellers, who kind of, for strange reasons, because it's in the air, suddenly now want to be storytellers. There is this.
Stephens and Mr. made typography dance across the page in a way that should not have worked. But they didn't start by breaking the rules. They started by learning them. And once they understand the foundation,
they had the authority to reimagine it.
The creative process is messy. It's full of false starts and dead ends. But it's not the bug in the system. That's the feature. When you're not trying to get it right, you give yourself permission to experiment. You try techniques you're not qualified at. You play, you fail, and in that failure, you discover something new. So here's what we have learned. Creativity isn't about having unlimited options. It's about working within the boundaries and finding infinite possibilities inside them. It's about understanding the rules so deeply that you should exactly know which ones to break. It's about failing repeatedly and learning from failures. It's about constraints, not as obstacles, but as catalysts. So the next time you sit down to create, don't ask, what if I had unlimited resources? Ask, what if I had less? What if you had one color, one art, one material? Because that's where the magic happens. Not in the freedom to do anything, but in the discipline to do something specific. The greatest artists in the history didn't create masterpieces because of their limitations. They created them because of them. Constraints are not the enemy of creativity, they are the engine of it.